Back here on SportsLine, we were talking the Titans coming off that 34-27 preseason win over the Carolina Panthers on Saturday to even their preseason record to 1-1. Going to get some guys at that wide receiver position back for Marcus Mariota this week, and then Sunday, preseason game number 3 against the Bears, high noon over at Nissan Stadium. Pretty much the dress rehearsal for the regular season, so it's hard to take much out of any of these games. You know, you caution to be too down after what they did in New York because it was just lackluster and the starters didn't play very much. You caution a little bit to be so high on what they did against Carolina because remember, Cam Newton didn't play, and it kind of skyrocketed or snowballed in favor of the Titans early on in that game. This game gives you a little bit more to work with. You're going to have a full half probably of starters on both sides, which will be interesting on Saturday, although the Bears are not very good. You're going to get a little bit more feel of what this team is on both sides of the ball as they get set for the regular season. Still the preseason, they're not going to throw any crazy wrinkles in there, but they're actually going to look at the Bears and try to exploit some of the things that they can do and go out there and perform at their best for at least a half, probably into the third quarter, with their best players on Sunday. So that will be interesting to observe. Phone lines are open. 737-7767 is the number. The good Reverend Fuzz joins us here on the program. Thanks for the call.
Hey, I'm glad to call. I've never called a sports show before, but a couple things came up. Number one, over the past 5 years, you've watched the Titans. How many times this time of year has everyone said that we're going to go to the Super Bowl and we're going to have a great team, and within 5 or 6 games we're very disappointed? And then the second question is this. I thought it was fake. I saw it all over Facebook. I even asked yesterday, is this real? People were pushing this boycott of the NFL over the Kaepernick thing. What's your thoughts on that, and how is that going? I saw something on the news tonight that made me realize it was real, that in Cleveland, a lot of the players join in protest with the Kaepernick controversy. So what's going on with that? What do you think?
Yeah, well, obviously Colin Kaepernick protested what he thinks is basically, in his words, systematic injustice in America towards minorities, specifically blacks, a year ago. And the way he did it was by protesting the national anthem by kneeling. And he took a huge heap of criticism for that. I gave him some on this show. Not that I didn't think he had the right to stand up for his belief or protest in any way, shape, or form. I just didn't think protesting the flag and the servicemen and women that go out and fight for the country to give you that right was the proper channel to do it. And I think even more than that, he lost a lot of people with his message by the action, by the way he went about his protest. It wasn't so much the message they didn't like, they just didn't hear the message because they didn't like the way he went about the protest. Fast forward now to this year, Colin Kaepernick's out of work. He was a free agent quarterback that is not signed anywhere. And there's a lot of people out there who believe that he's essentially been blackballed by the NFL and owners who don't want to deal with that type of a headache. Now, Colin Kaepernick is probably not a starting quarterback in the NFL anymore. You'd be hard-pressed to convince me that he doesn't belong somewhere on a roster as a backup, though. And at this point of training camp, the Titans are carrying 4 quarterbacks. A lot of teams are carrying 4 quarterbacks right now. You're telling me Colin Kaepernick, a guy who played in a Super Bowl with the 49ers, isn't good enough to be in someone's camp with 4 quarterbacks? That, to me, says something's weird out there. But again, you're talking about individual owners that own teams or businesses that are trying to think about what's best for their product and what is a distraction and all those sort of things. That's what they're all wrestling with right now, right or wrong. That's the deal. But what has happened is you've seen other players, Marshawn Lynch of the Raiders, Michael Bennett in Seattle. You've seen other players around the NFL now sit or kneel for the national anthem in solidarity with Kaepernick and his message. They all have jobs, so they're able to keep on doing that. But you've kind of seen the backlash. You've seen it from fans, people who are upset with Kaepernick and upset with the protest, and the fact that the game that has been a distraction for them has now been politicized. I think you see a lot of fans that are fed up with that and kind of tired of the NFL not really taking a stand against these players who, by the way, I mean, just for their argument's sake, part of your job description as an NFL player is to go stand up for the national anthem with your teammates before each game, just like everybody in the stands does. So when you don't do that, I think there is an argument to be made that your employer can tell you you need to do that, or there will be consequences. I think you can also say that the employer saying, hey, you guys are our players, we respect your right to do that. I think you can say that's fine as well. But that's where you get the battle here, is I think there's some people out there who want the NFL to say, you guys need to stand up. You're a part of this league. This is what we expect you to do. And they're not. And they feel like they can't do that at their job, to their employer, and feel that these guys are somewhat entitled. And so you have that side of things where people are protesting what the NFL is sort of lack of involvement in this issue is. And then you have people on the other side, players included, standing up for Kaepernick and saying, you know what, this is wrong. This guy should have a job, and we still need to talk about these issues. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I think the politicized nature of the NFL right now is not good for the game. I don't have any empirical data to tell you that this controversy or any other is, ruining the game. Obviously, it's a $13 billion business. It is by far the most popular brand, sports-wise, in the world. But ratings went down last year. There was some momentum going against the league last year, and I don't think the continuation of this story helps. So it will be fascinating to see how this continues to play out. If Colin Kaepernick ever finds his way onto a team this year, if these other guys, Marshawn Lynch, Michael Bennett, and others continue to kneel or sit for the national anthem, and what the backlash is, either from the NFL taking a stand, a firm stand one way or the other, or from fans who either move to the players' side and say, let them do what they want, or say, I don't want to see this on my Sunday afternoons. I want to watch football without having to think about a presidential election or what's going on in Washington, D.C., or politics of any kind. I just want to watch football or think about my fantasy team. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out this fall. And Reverend, to answer your other question about the Titans, you asked if how often over the last 5 or 6 years we've heard people say, oh, this is the year for the Titans. They can win a division. They can go to the Super Bowl. They can go to the playoffs. And then it doesn't materialize like that. Obviously, it hasn't materialized because it's been 2008 since the last time they made the playoffs. To me, what's different this year, though, is every year you have optimism. And when you talk to the guys in the locker room, they'll say, all right, this is the year. We believe it. We can win in the division. We can go to the playoffs. You have to believe that. Just to be an NFL player, you have to have the confidence and the self-assurance that when you walk on the field on Sunday, you believe you can win. And I think fans in Nashville, they just wanted to get excited every year. So going into the opener, everybody's 0-0, right? So you believe that that could be the year. The difference to me about this season is there's people outside of Nashville and outside of the locker room who believe that this can be the year. When you talk to the experts around the NFL, mentioned USA Today. The guys at Pro Football Focus said that this is the third best roster in their mind in the National Football League. Peter King, the great football reporter and the Monday Morning Quarterback, they did their preseason power rankings. They had the Titans 4th. There's been a lot of people who put them in that discussion as a top 5 team in the NFL going into the year. And these aren't people who are bandwagon fans. They're not cheering for the Titans to have that breakout year. They truly believe this is a roster made up to have that type of a breakout year. So that, to me, is the big difference this year. It isn't just, hey, it's a new season and a new year, they can be good. This is a belief that look at this roster. Look at Marcus Mariota at quarterback, the two-headed monster in the backfield at running back, the offensive line that may be the best in football, certainly up there, new weapons at wide receiver, Pro Bowl tight end, solid front seven on defense, and now a revamped secondary and special teams. There aren't many holes to look at on this team. Maybe not elite players at every position, but there's no longer gaping holes that you look at and say, this is what a team attacks against the Titans. And for that reason, a lot of people love this roster. A lot of people love what their potential can be this year. And so that to me is the big difference, is the expectations aren't just locally, and it's not just hope. It's a real belief, and I think you feel that in the locker room. Hope springs eternal every year, especially in professional sports. But this year, when you talk to the guys, I think there's a confidence and a belief that comes with that. And a big part of that, too, comes from the way they finished last year. When they won 4 of their final 6 and went 9-7 overall, narrowly missing the playoffs, I think they all looked at it as a missed opportunity, yes, but as a first step. They thought they were better than the Texans last year. Heck, they beat them in Week 17 to tie at 9-7. Texans win on the tiebreaker of the overall division record. I think the Titans looked at last year and said, look, we beat the good teams on our schedule late in the year. It was the trip-ups early on that cost us from winning the division and going to the playoffs and having a chance to win a game like the Texans did and go to New England in the divisional round. That was the difference last year. But I think they thought at the end, while it's disappointing they didn't get there last year, the way they played against good teams, that's the type of performance they have to carry over to this year. And if they do that, the sky is the limit. And they've carried that over. A common refrain that I've heard from guys like Brian Arakpo and others was, it sort of feels like there wasn't an off season. It was just a long bye week, and they're ready to go. Like, let's tee it up tomorrow, because we know now how hard you have to work, the mentality we have to have, the physicality we have to play with. And if we go out there and do that, as we saw last year, we can be really good. And oh, by the way, we got better in the offseason in terms of who we picked up and take away some of those holes. That's why the belief is so high that this can be a special year for the Tennessee Titans. Our phone lines are still open, 737-7767. Give us a call. Want your take on this team right now. We will do that. We'll also hear from Paul Kuharsky, Midday 180, and paulkuharsky.com, talking about this Titans team coming up here in just a few minutes. Time for a break. Back with more SportsLine after this on News Channel 5+.